Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We have been noticing a lot of noise about validity of the historical facts. And there have been allegations that there's a bias in writing of the history and the history needs to be rewritten. As a matter of fact, history is a tricky yarn because of the strong reactions that it can trigger. In any retelling of the history, there has to be a degree of bias. Let's not forget it. Without bias, there can never be a very objective scientific history. You have to select because of your bias, which can be cultural, which can be linguistic, which can be political, which can be economic. It's not a question of what you include in history. It's a question of what you exclude from history. No history can be absolutely exhaustive to cover all aspects of life. Normally, I go in for socio-economic aspects. When I take socio, I include political in that. But when you rewrite history, the historians have to see from which side the history is coming from, because that colors their words. It depends on how much importance is given to the history of not the rulers, but the ordinary people who felt the issues, who faced the problems. And normally what has happened is that the history is always a compendium, not of the society, but of the rulers. And since the rulers, the leaders, are either the objects of admiration or the objects of hate, so the history is naturally biased. A point that's being raised in India is that history was not deemed to include the achievements of the ancient India. But there's a history of a period. You cannot have a history starting from the beginning of the civilization till today. So that's why we have the history of the medieval times, history of the old time, history of the modern times, and so on. One thing, of course, is there that in history, as I said earlier, we have not given attention to the socio-economic and political situations, but we have given only importance to the wars and the political events. All other aspects of the human life have been absolutely ignored and thereby hangs a tale. Then, it's also important to remember what's the background and the culture of the historian. All those things that you are stripping away to be objective doesn't work, because some of you would always be impacted by what your thoughts are. A Hindu revivalist would think of the positive aspects of Shivaji, and nothing wrong with that. There is a lot of noise, for example, in India about Maharana Pratap and Akbar the Great. Why call Akbar the Great? Why not Maharana Pratap the Great? Justifiably. A small potentate facing the Emperor of India was a heroic figure. But then, should either one of them be called great? I would call Akbar great not because of his defeating Pratap, but because of his being the first person in that dark age to talk of Sulh Kul, when even the Europe was rended by the religious rivalry and bigotry. He was the man who started Deen Ilahi, where he combined all the good points of all the good religions and called Sulh Kul, Sulh is agreement. Kul, everybody. So all inclusive. Look at the history of England. Mary, the Queen of Scots, is called Bloody Mary because she killed Protestants. If Scotland was an independent country, and Catholic as it is, it would not call her Bloody Mary, they'll call her a heroine, the protector of the faith. So, the concept changes according to the time. I agree that in a period history, you have got to ensure and take care that these personal peculiarities are ignored. But you cannot forget that whatever selections you may want to include, you may be intellectually, emotionally, and culturally more attracted to a particular character. Aurangzeb is called to be absolutely criminal ruler of India, bigoted, cruel, pro-Islam. He is called a person who destroyed the temples. People forget that if he destroyed the temples, he destroyed the masjids also. There's a historical record that he had destroyed more than 200 masjids. And he did destroy the temples, yes. But suppressing something and highlighting is a part of the apologies. And then he also gave money to Benares temples for renovation. Let's not forget that. They blame Aurangzeb for imposing jizya on non-Muslims. Yes, jizya was 5% of your income. But he also imposed compulsorily zakat on the Muslims, which was 10% of their income. So was he then not more biased against the Muslims? And look at his personal life. He did not take a dime from the royal treasury, possibly the only ruler who did not take a dime, who lived like a pauper. He would sew caps and write Quran, and by selling that, earn his livelihood. He was not a drone, not a parasite. But yes, he was a dedicated Muslim, and he did kill hundreds and thousands of non-Muslims when they did not convert. The whole of Kashmir was turned into a cauldron. And it was Tegh Bahadur's sacrifice which brought a halt to that. Not to the exploitation, not to the killing, but some respite to the people. Our job is, as human beings and as historians, to shift to the historical facts as are generally recognized. You cannot change the whole outcome. And if you look at the historical characters, you have got to see the particular character traits into the people. The imagined relationship between the families. Politicians often write down what they want to present. Most histories, let's not forget, are written by the people who are victorious. The wars were fought, and the victorious would write the history. Naturally, he would write in favor of the victory, the winning party. He would always degrade and downplay the role and even the greatness of the opposing parties. It's very rare that you see that the victorious can be magnanimous, the way Alexander was to Porus when he defeated him. And impressed by his response, he returned his empire. You see, look at the historical facts. Cleopatra. Everybody knows that Cleopatra was not what she is normally told to be. She ruled Egypt for 20 years. She was charismatic, spoke many languages, not one, two, but more than 15 languages. She was skilled in sciences and attracted a lot of scholars to Alexandria. But the war took place. She and a lover, Mark Antony, were defeated. As the first Roman emperor, Augustus had the history rewritten. Her statues were destroyed. Her carvings were destroyed. And she was portrayed as a siren, seducer, and not a politician and a scholar, which she really was. And today, what do you remember Cleopatra for? A beautiful girl whom custom could not stale, age could not wither, and who committed suicide by having a snake bite her breast. So, what is the most critical history that's taught in the schools and the universities, and the so history largely ignored? If you have, for example, estates in England, in the past you would have gone to look at those fabulous furniture and furnishing and the painting. Increasingly, there's a move to open up the kitchens and show the people how people kept their houses running. This is not just about people. Sorry, not about the rulers only. It's about the people, as I said earlier. How the people work the stable is more important to me than how many houses the king had. Whether Arjun's arrows had nuclear warheads or not, as claimed by the governor of West Bengal in India, but whether Arjun and Draupadi had a monogamous relationship, that would be more important to me, which it was not. This is not just about rulers and the people in the influence. It should not be. It is everybody who makes up the society and plays a role. And those people don't get a chance. I won't care whether Charles I was hanged and Charles II had to go in exile and then come back. I'm more concerned with what happened to the people when Oliver Cromwell was ruling the country as a protector, Lord Protector. And again, how the things change. History is about everybody who makes up the society and plays a role. Or maybe didn't get any chance to play a role. The experience is difficult. You see, there's a problem with the word the article the. It stereotypes people and leaves little room for diversity. Imagine saying the Indians. What Indians? Is it Punjabis or it's Tamilians? Is it Kurgis or is it Konkanis? Konkanis are Goan, Kurgis are from Kurg. Is it Marathis or is it Gujaratis? They are two different people. But when we say Indian people, we combine the lowest common denominator, the LCM, not the GCM, the greatest common factor. When we say the British, we should say the most British people. That would be more important. So we most Indians. Because when it's most Indians, or most British, or the most Pakistanis, or the most Canadians, then it doesn't specify everybody. And history's biggest problem is the. We have to seriously stop doing that, and then we will see the things differently. As I said about Akbar, there's a lot of noise being going on in India, especially in the state of Rajasthan, where the previous government had removed the word the great from Akbar. And now the present government has removed the great from Maharana Pratap. He was the first Mughal emperor to follow Salakul, peace with all, as I said. How important the history should be, how important was this religious policy in creating a syncretic culture in medieval India? That would be real history. Fighting Rana Pratap in Haldighat could have been important for a limited period, for a limited time, but is extending Catholicity and openness all over India, and Salai Kul is something, some achievement, which does entitle him to certain respect. The Mughals coming out of the Central Asia, the descendants of Genghis Khan, later converting to Islam. Genghis Khan was not Muslim. Let's be clear about that. And these people, they supplanted in India. They were practically transplants in India. And in the reign of Akbar, you see openness. He was the first ruler in the world who started studying comparative religion, where Jews, Christians, Sikhs, Jains, all were welcome to the court. And when there was religious tolerance in Europe, India was a haven of peace. But although he was able to challenge mullahs to appoint people who were not mainstream Sunnis, and he employed people from the different ages, but the fact does remain that his policies were not of permanent nature, they were very transient. So, are you great if your policies are not eternal? Because the common people were not affected by that. The culture did not change. It was a change at the surface. So Akbar was great as compared to the others. But he was not really the great. The really great would have been if he had been able to percolate to the minds of the people. But he did see the benefit of bringing people together. He did see cohesiveness as a way of keeping together geographically disparate people. Then, we have got to differentiate between mythology and history. We don't do that. Many things which are of myths become ingrained in our mind as a part of the history. And myths are important, let's be very clear. As a matter of fact, there is a lot of truth in them, and historical facts, whether they are myths or not, are there. And the time shows it. So we need an open mind to approach. But then, who writes history? The human beings do. And can human beings work as machines? No, they cannot. Their emotional, their culture, their linguistic, their societal, their economic ties would always impact what they write about. And the history would never be a document of scientific treatise. It would be a recall of the events, selective events, of course. And if you can rewrite history and remove those events and put others in the same place, but the real history, as I said, the history of the people, the lives of the people, that would not have undergone a change. So you want to rewrite history of the people, not of the rurals. But history as it is, without bias, is a dream, is a chimera. And better you realize the reality, the better it would be. Thank you.